Interval notation, part 2, the pad intervals, as I call them. Up till now, we've identified intervals with basic quantitative labels, a fifth, a sixth, a second, so on and so forth. But as musicians, we need to be precise when we discuss an interval. We need to be able to be exacting when we do this. In order to more quickly learn our intervals, I'm going to separate the groupings of intervals into two categories. There are those intervals that only have 3 qualitative labels, and they are unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves. They can only have 3 labels besides the number. Seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths can have 4 qualitative labels. We'll talk about them in the next video. For right now, we're going to talk about the intervals, unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves. These intervals I call the pad intervals, P-A-D. These intervals can be perfect, augmented, or diminished. And yes, I've capitalized perfect and augmented and lowercase diminished, and there's a reason for that, which we'll soon see. We're going to start with fourths and not unisons. I'll explain that at a later time. We already know what perfect fourths are because we've seen them in our scales. From the first note of any scale to the fourth note, from do to fa, is a perfect fourth. Even when we start at high do and come down to sol, at the distance of a fourth, that's a perfect fourth. Now, what makes a fourth a perfect fourth? A perfect fourth is made up of 5 half steps. So when we start doing these exercises, if you need to check them, you could always count half steps. But we don't want to count half steps to learn them, and I'll show you that later. Here I have outlined the 5 steps between C and F. From C to C sharp is 1 half step. From C sharp to D is a 2nd half step. From D to D sharp is a 3rd half step. From D sharp to E is a 4th half step. And E to F is a 5th half step. So from C to F is a perfect fourth. Let's look at a perfect fourth from the note F. So we're going to count half steps, and you can see it here in this piano chart. Again, from F to F sharp is 1 half step. F sharp to G is a 2nd half step. G to G sharp is a 3rd half step. G sharp to A is a 4th half step. And F to B flat is the 5th half step. Notice I was using sharps going up, but on the last note I called it a B flat. Well, I can't call it an A sharp because from F to A is a 3rd. Even though if I call it an A sharp, it's going to sound the exact same. From F to A sharp, it's going to sound exactly the same as F to B flat. But if we're talking about a fourth, the basic interval must be a fourth, and a fourth from F is always some kind of B. Please don't get confused by that. Okay, always get your quantitative, your numeric value first, and then work out the qualitative. Okay, since our fourth is a pad interval, it can also be augmented or diminished. Well, what do we mean by that? Let's start with diminished first. To diminish something is to make smaller. Well, if F to B flat is a perfect fourth, and I want to have a fourth that is diminished, it needs to be 1 half step smaller than a perfect fourth. Before we figure that out, however, please keep in mind that a fourth from F is always going to be some kind of B in some way, shape, or form. We cannot change the letters. F to B is always a fourth. What we change is we have to change the quality of that F or that B in order to make it a smaller interval. Well, how do we do that? Well, if we want F to B flat to be smaller, somehow we got to bring those intervals closer together. We have to have fewer half steps. One way is I make the F and F sharp. F sharp to B flat is still a fourth, but now there are only 4 half steps between them. And since there are only 4 half steps between them, we're going to call this a diminished fourth. Please note that when we abbreviate a diminished fourth, we use a lowercase d. When we use perfect fourth, we use an uppercase P. You'll understand this as we go along. Okay, what else can we do? Well, instead of changing the F, what if we change the B flat? We made that B flat come a half step closer to the F. Watch closely. So how do we make a B flat a half step smaller and still have it some kind of a B? Well, a simple answer. We make it a B double flat. In order to have a fourth from F, we have to have some kind of B. If we want a diminished fourth from F natural, we have to call the pitch and the note a B double flat. We can't call it an A because F to A is a third. So what do we have here? Again, we have enharmonic tones. An A and a B double flat sound exactly alike, but they're written differently. Okay, so there's our diminished fourth. We have two ways of writing the diminished fourth. And here is how they look in notation. The augmented fourth, sometimes written A4 with a capital A, is an interval that is 1/2 step larger than a perfect fourth. Okay, so let's again look at our perfect fourth, F to B flat. What we need to do is take our F to B, in this case 5/2 steps, and somehow make it an interval that is 6/2 steps. And again, there's two ways of doing this. We're making the interval larger. We're moving the F and B further apart. One way is to raise the B a half step like this. Or we can lower the F a half step, the same way we lower the B flat. And the F becomes an F flat. It does not become an E. It has to maintain some kind of F. And here we say two ways to notate that augmented fourth. We start with our perfect fourth, F to B flat, and then the second measure, F to B natural, is an augmented fourth, and the third measure, F flat to B flat, is also an augmented fourth. We're going to look at fifths quickly because it's the same idea with fourths. First of all, we'll ask what makes a fifth a perfect fifth. In a perfect fifth, there's 7/2 steps from one note to the next. Let's look at F and find our perfect fifth. Here we see 7/2 steps from the note F is actually note C. So from F natural to C natural, we have 7/2 steps, which makes it a perfect fifth. If F to C is a perfect fifth with 7/2 steps, if I make that F to C interval a half step smaller, I will get a diminished fifth. So I could do that one of two ways again. I could bring the F closer to the C by making it F sharp, or I could leave the F alone and bring the C closer to the F by making it a C flat. And here we see those. And here you see the notation for that. The perfect fifth, followed by the diminished fifth, F to C flat, and F sharp to C natural. Okay. We could do the same thing with octaves. Unisons, you don't see a lot of, if you have a C to a C sharp, we can call it an augmented unison. C to a C flat, we can call that a diminished unison. But you're not going to see a lot of those right now. We'll look at those when we look at compound intervals. Right now we're going to focus on our fourths, fifths, and octaves. In the next video I'll show you how to set up musictheory.net to practice your specific intervals. I'll also have a video coming up that will show you how to view intervals, fourths, fifths, and octaves, and be able to see right away if they're perfect or diminished or augmented. So watch for that, but for right now, go on to the next video to set up musictheory.net. Thank you.